5 August 2020, and I'm joined by Mr. Jaison Midzi from the Zimbabwe People's Party. How are you, sir?
I'm okay, Mr. Gambakwe. How are you?
Fantastic. And today we are going to be talking about the current situation in Zimbabwe. Are you aware of the hashtag Zimbabweans Lives Matter?
Yeah, I'm aware of that hashtag. I've seen it flying around in social media.
Okay. So according to many people in South Africa and all over the world, the situation in Zimbabwe has become unbearable. Human rights abuses have reached unprecedented levels. What are your views on Zimbabweans Lives Matter?
As a party, we really have always been saying Zimbabweans lives matter. But it looks like people always want to talk about it when it suits them most. But Zimbabweans' lives started to matter in the year 2000 when America and Britain put Zimbabwe under economic sanctions, when America and Britain declared economic war on Zimbabwe. That's when things started to turn sour for our people. It's pathetic, Mr. Gambakwe, that Zimbabweans do not acknowledge that the sanctions are real. They are told that the sanctions are targeting Mnangagwa and other people. But is Mnangagwa hungry? Is Mnangagwa not finding what he wants? No. These sanctions are targeted on us, all Zimbabweans. And the results of those sanctions are lack of everything in the country like you see in Zimbabwe. And also civil unrest, division amongst the Zimbabweans, and many other social issues that we find in the country at the moment. There are so many, and the number of deaths in the country is so high since the year 2000. So Zimbabweans' lives started to matter in the year 2000 until Zimbabweans acknowledge that sanctions are real. Because these are the same sanctions which killed Iraq, which has oil. These are the same sanctions which killed Iran, which has oil. What about Zimbabwe, a landlocked country with no oil, with only land and tobacco, and a few minerals which don't equate to South Africa's Rand region? So Zimbabweans' lives matter, but we need to know where to direct those ones, that hashtag.
Okay. So what about the current issues happening in Zimbabwe? What is Idi Mnangagwa doing right or doing wrong?
Idi Mnangagwa has not managed to create the Zimbabwean dream. The Zimbabwean dream is when you and me feel that we are Zimbabweans, feel that we are chasing a certain dream, and we walk hand in hand and arm in arm. So he hasn't been able to create that dream for us. That's why you see today there are so many divisions in the country. Everyone is blaming everyone. And also, if you look at it, all these hashtags, all these demonstrations, they are like trying to extinguish fire with water while the gas is still being pumped.
Okay, so as ZPP, are you for Zimbabweans Lives Matter or are you against it? Do you think it's a solution or not?
We have never minced our words. Zimbabwe People's Party has the solution for the people of Zimbabwe. The solution is unity. The solution is meritocracy. Being productive in our country. Those are the solutions. When we are united, we will never talk about these hashtags. We will never talk about these demonstrations. Remember, we told people, don't go for demonstration of 31 July. It's not going to help anything. It's not going to change anything. The same applies with all these hashtags. They're not going to help anything because all demonstrations nowadays demonstrations are not that helpful because they suffer from what we call clicktism. People simply just see on WhatsApp and whatever, Twitter or Facebook, but the actual on the grounds action is not there.
Okay, but the MDC says with the hashtags like Zimbabweans Lives Matter, AU, SADC, United Nations, they are going to see that Mnangagwa is not popular and they'll start speaking against him.
I think we need to be able to distinguish between the political parties in Zimbabwe. Let me talk about 3 political parties. We have got ZANU-PF, which is a liberation movement. We have got MDC, which is a protest movement. We have ZPP, Zimbabwe People's Party, which is a pan-Africanist movement. Our approaches are different. MDC looks at any mistake in the country and start a demo or a hashtag. That's what a protest movement does. A liberation movement like ZANU-PF or ANC, they are not moved by all those social media things. They are not moved by anything that does not involve fury and fire. If you look at ZPP, Zimbabwe People's Party, we are not into abuse of human rights. We are not into all these hashtags and all these demonstrations. We are into preaching unity amongst Africans and Zimbabweans. That's what we are there for. That's why we don't participate in all these things, because that's not part of our ideology. Our ideology is to tell Zimbabweans to come together, start to chase one dream, start to ask every person who was voted in 2018, what have you done? Have you fulfilled your election promises? Leader by leader, that's meritocracy. Let's unite as Zimbabweans, let's work together. That's Pan-Africanism, Ubuntu spirit. That's what guides Zimbabwe People's Party. Without that, you can fight for centuries and centuries. You can put those hashtags and those demonstrations for centuries and centuries. Nothing will come. But if we come to Pan-Africanism, where we respect each African and ensure that we love each and every African, we will come together, we will unite, we will be Africans. And these hashtags and these demonstrations will be things of the past.
Okay, so let's summarize this. You said the biggest problem in Zimbabwe is the sanctions.
That's very correct, Mr. Gambakwe. Sanctions, if people, I want all political party leaders to be very honest with our people. Let's push the correct narrative. If anything, because if we talk about human rights abuse, let me tell you something. Last year, 2019, American police killed 999 civilians. How many civilians were killed in Zimbabwe by Zimbabwean police, and the army included, and the CIOs? I don't know, maybe you have the numbers. I don't know if they reach 999. I'm not saying harassing people is good, it's bad, but when we talk about human rights, let's look at who is championing them and what's their record in their own country. This year only, from January up to August, American police killed 525 Americans. How many have died in Zimbabwe at the hands of every person of the security services or just murderers on the streets? So the spirit of Ubuntu should guide us as Zimbabweans. We should continue loving life, continue protecting life. Yes, President Mnangagwa should also work hard with his PR tactics. Yes, things are tough, but he should also try to observe whatever people are calling human rights. But when we talk about human rights, comparing Zimbabwe to America or Zimbabwe to South Africa, where you are, Mr. Gambakwe, I think South Africa has more to do than Zimbabwe. Yes, Zimbabwe is not doing, there are so many things. Sanctions, people are not seeing the problems being caused by sanctions. And also, Mr. Mnangagwa having people who are, but you know, if you go to South Africa itself, you saw during COVID, soldiers were killing people in South Africa. We're also rolling people and beating them, you know, in public. So Africa is revolving. We call it evolution of the African continent.
Okay, so sanctions are the problems, the main problem. Idi Mnangagwa has failed to articulate the Zimbabwean dream.
He has failed to articulate the Zimbabwean dream, and he also does not have the right man to do his public relations. Because when you send police and the soldiers on the streets, it's not a good public relations. It's not a good PR for the country. So he needs a very good PR department that tells him what to do at any given moment in time. I know there are liberation movements and they've got their own ways of, liberation movements are associated with the dictatorship and suppression. But at least there has to be a good PR manager.
Okay, then you said the solution is unity and not what the opposition parties are doing, which is to try to capitalize on any mistake made by ZANU-PF for international audiences.
That's what you can do, because when we go outside with different voices, we don't achieve anything. Every country you see in the world, they are waiting to scavenge and become the champion of the world. We don't become the champion of the world when we go outside to talk bad or good about ourselves. We can fight in our own house, but when we go outside, let's go out and talk good about our own country and create a good image of our country. But if we take the fights of our house outside, then there's a problem. Also, what I want you to tell you is that Zimbabwe under MDC and ZANU-PF has not been a good country. That is from 1999 up to today. Those two political parties have failed the people because they can't sit to talk. They are always running after one another, fights after fights, abductions after abductions. That's their relationship, which is affecting the whole country. So people need to look around and see what they need to do, because those two political parties are not good for Zimbabwe, if I can say.
Okay, Mr. Jaison Midzi from the Zimbabwe People's Party, we are the communications director. I want us to keep this video very short for our WhatsApp audience. Is there anything else that you want to say before we close?
What I want to say is, it's high time Zimbabweans should leave those political parties who survive by factionalism, factional fights, and power struggles to just be left, to be thrown in the dustbin, so that the people can move with people who are serious about uniting Zimbabweans and taking the Zimbabwean dream and agenda forward. I also want to assure Zimbabweans that the moment they continue holding on to MDC and ZANU-PF is the moment nothing will come their way. This is my promise. If Zimbabwe is going to change in 2023 because you have ZANU-PF and MDC, I think I'll quit politics. But at this rate, where we believe there are solutions in those two political parties, which have been fighting and killing the country for the past 20 years together, MDC and ZANU, from 1999 up to today, more than 21 years, without a productive dialogue, I think history is the best teacher. It should teach us that those two political parties should be history for us to proceed and prosper as a nation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jaison Midzi. I really enjoy talking to you. Every week we have a chat between Monday and Wednesday. So I hope that we'll be able to continue this discussion again next week. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gambakwe.